Riley Corcoran back here with Matt Mika. Doubleheader last night, feast or famine for Wilson. It looked like a sweep was coming. The Tobs were 6 outs away before they faltered and the bullpen blew it. One of the first times we've seen that. A couple things went back and forth. Let's talk about the positive first. Game number 1, Michael Wells gives up 2 runs in the first 2 innings, but Wilson rallies. We've seen that so many times this year, Matt. They scored 2 runs in the 5th, 2 more runs in the 6th. Propel themselves to a 4-2 victory. Game 1, nice to get off on the right foot.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, Michael Wells kind of struggled a little bit, but the offense picked them up, which was great to see. We had big hitting from Lowry, we had big hitting from Dunbar, and it was great to see them get that victory in the first game.
And those guys in the middle of the order, we're going to talk about the bottom of the order here in game number 2 even more, but they got it started in the 5th inning. There were guys like Bradley Morton, Nick Ragnar, who you just heard from, and a couple guys that were just great all the way through, very solid. The bottom of the order being able to produce in game number 1, and then of course Ridge Gonsolin doing what he normally does.
Exactly. Bradley Morton was huge last night. Same with Zach Lee. They were able to just grind out at bats, put the bat on the ball and get on base for the top of the order, and Gonsolin just did his thing.
And then the bullpen again was solid like usual. In game number 1, Dylan Fry came in, locked down the save. Looked very good. Let's transition to game number 2. Wilson did beat Fayetteville 4-2 in that contest. Very good to get off on the right foot. Game number 2, another pitcher's duel back and forth. JT Brubaker looked about as good as we've seen in a very long time. He went 3 1/3 without allowing a hit before Fayetteville started putting them together in bunches at least. But about JT Brubaker, before we talk about what ended up happening in the 7th and 8th inning of those contests, he was very good. What made him so effective, a little bit different than what we saw the last couple of outings at least.
His tempo was good. He got the ball and he wanted to just go. Get the ball, throw. Get the ball, throw. And also, he used his body to his advantage. He's a big guy. He's very tall, very lanky, and he stretched towards the plate, was able to, bump it up to like low 90s and use his curveball effectively.
You speak about JT Brubaker and his size, 6'3", very long and lengthy with his delivery as well. The Tobs struggled putting the ball in the strike zone. They are 3rd in the CPL with walks thrown at least by pitchers, and last night was just wild. Game number 2, they hit 8 Fayetteville Swamp Dogs, by far a CPL high on the year. JT Brubaker hit 5. He's now 2nd in the league on a personal level, but just from the team standpoint, how much does that kill momentum, number 1? Number 2, have you ever seen 8 hit batters in an 8-inning contest?
I've never seen that, whatsoever. I've never seen, that many hit batters, and also that kills the momentum so much because if you're a fielder and you're just out there and you see another hit batter, it just kills momentum and just makes the game so much slower. And for a pitcher, you want your fielders to be involved in the game. It makes the game quicker, makes the game more enjoyable, and also gets that good vibe for them when they get in the dugout for their at bats.
And for Fayetteville, putting runners on base, something you do not want to do. Fayetteville has interesting stats to say the least. They lead the CPL in batting average, 257. Right in about 10th place in doubles, but as far as triples, they hit just their 2nd as a team all year long. They have not hit a home run yet in their first 35 games. So they're a single station-to-station type team. When you give them free bases, you find out what happens, like last night in game number 2 for Wilson. The bullpen really was not on top. It just was amazing to me that Blake Myers and Dylan Fry went again in game number 2. Dylan Fry having to throw in 2 consecutive games. They wanted him to pick out a 4-out save as Wilson had a big inning. Bottom of the 5th, let's get to the positive first, at least from the offensive side of things. It was 1-1. Wilson put up a 4 spot. You thought the game was virtually over in a 7-inning contest. 5 consecutive singles by 7, 8, 9, 1, and 2. Nick Ragnar, again, who you just heard from, was in the mix on that rally, as well as Ridge Gonsolin, Sean Godfrey, like Bradley Morton had a huge night for Wilson. But to put 5 consecutive singles together, pretty nice to see for Wilson. This team just hits in bunches. It's hard to explain.
Right. Just like you said, hits in bunches, the perfect word for a perfect term for it. Nick Ragnar came up huge. He was struggling early in the year, and yesterday he was taking pitches outside the outside part of the plate. He was just going the other way with it. He, didn't try to do too much with it, didn't try to pull the ball, it just went to the opposite field. It was great to see.
And Nick Ragnar raising his batting average over 50 points last night. Pretty amazing to see. And for the Tobs as a team, they get up 5-1. Then all of a sudden, Brubaker loses control. He gets pulled from the game. Blake Myers, maybe 1 batter too long. Dylan Fry called on to pick up his 2nd save of the night, trying to get 4 outs this time. Didn't go as planned for Dylan Fry. And then the 8th inning, couple risky plays back and forth and hit batters, walks, and Fayetteville takes advantage in extra innings to salvage the split. But you look at big picture. For Wilson, they had a chance to get back within a half game, it seemed, to Fayetteville for 2nd place. Instead, they still pick up a little bit of ground on Wilmington after last night. if you would have told me in the middle of June with how the Swamp Dogs had dominated the Tobs, pretty happy, I guess, with the split coming away from this.
Right, that's just a confidence booster for them. They know they can compete with them.
Right.
They know they can grind with them and be at that level to go into the playoffs and do some damage in the playoffs.
And that's very important because these teams will score off 4 more times, believe it or not, before the end of the year. 2 games on Saturday before closing out the regular season. 2 games on August 5th. One quick note on tonight's game, playing Columbia, the Blowfish are very good.
Yep.
Second half leaders rather in the West Division. Also overall record just behind Asheboro. So they're a lock for the playoffs, but very solid pitching wise. Then hitting, they can hit for power. They're just a very good team all the way around the board. And for the Tobs, a different approach of facing a team that I don't know too much about other than the record that they're very good. Last non-conference game, you can say, at home. How does Wilson really approach this and try and move forward with Bobby Gazzola getting the start?
Yeah, the Blowfish, they remind me of Edenton. They do everything right. They're one of the best teams in the whole entire league. They dominate the West. So for the Tobs just to get more confidence and play well against them, hopefully getting the win tonight, that will give them the confidence going against Edenton later on this week.
And Edenton, 3 games in a span of 2 days. Then the Tobs hit a big road trip. 4 games, make it 5 games in 5 days if you count that Edenton contest. If you want to keep up with the Wilson Tobs, you're going to be updating social media, of course, like always, Facebook, Twitter. Just remind our fans one more time on how to keep in touch with the Wilson Tobs as they enter this long road stretch.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Wilson Tobs as we make that run towards the Pettit Cup, towards the playoffs. I'll be tweeting from the games, all the in-game tweets, all the pictures, all the videos, so definitely keep up with us on social media.
And the Wilson Tobs right now currently 1 game ahead of the Wilmington Sharks. Can they keep pace tonight if they can beat Columbia? We'll see as Bobby Gazzola will get the start for Wilson. We'll wrap up the show next. It's the Tobs Talk on Greenlight.